of the Galaxy?
But we already have Guardians of the Galaxy at home, Timmy. What's up, bears? I think you know where I'm going with this. You know, going to the movies is a dying custom. This is especially true for people my age, because we were locked up for the duration of the pandemic during our formative years, which further eroded our attention spans, to which we freak out trying to mentally digest anything longer than a TikTok. To make matters worse, there haven't been any real exciting movies to actually get us out of our homes, especially when you have to spend $20 on a ticket and $20 on a bucket of popcorn and then $10 on a soda. All that because you can't sneak in snacks into the local multiplex. But you can still do it if you try. And don't I know it? Sure, everyone's watched all the Avengers movies and the MCU blockbusters, but it's hard to imagine spending any money on something you can just watch on your phone 3 weeks later. If you know how.
You are a pirate!
The majority of films today are 3-hour-long snooze fests, written by wealthy Hollywood scumbuckets with no connection to reality. In fact, they're not so interested in providing us with entertainment for our hard-earned money. No, they're just interested in lecturing us about
the message. I'm going to open this review of Borderlands, currently in the cinema. I'm going to open with positive. Okay, so the best thing I can say about Borderlands is that it's under 2 hours long.
Just like Dave Cullen, I would like to open my review of Borderlands with something positive about the movie. And that is, I did not pay money to watch it. That's it. That's the positive thing I have to say about Borderlands. Now on with the review. Suit up, bears. Borderlands tries to be a movie that you could enjoy without even playing any of the games. That is, if the movie was good. In fact, it's probably harder to enjoy this movie if you did play the games. But if you're making a movie for all audiences, there's nothing specifically wrong with starting with a narration to let people know what's going on. In fact, Jamie Lee Curtis, one of the stars of this movie, has lent her voice a couple times to do narrations. Who doesn't remember her opening voiceover for Escape from New York? But the opening narration of Borderlands is suspected to be written by AI, or so I keep hearing. To be sure, this movie started filming in 2021, so we're not even talking about ChatGPT 3.0 here. It really seems like some really early chatbot wrote the narration. The gist of it is that there's this planet that exists somewhere that has this thing that everyone wants, which they never actually get to define in tangible terms. They just call it advanced technology. So we go from this intro to a madcap mayhem prison break scene at an insane asylum, out of all places, where we're then introduced to some of the most uncreative, boring characters, not to mention severely miscast. It really doesn't have the obvious intended effect because we are not given any reason to care about them. And we know that Kevin Hart plays Roland, so we're supposed to root for this character because it's played by Kevin Hart. Unless you're actually a fan of the game, because then you'll know that Roland is actually a tall man with no sense of humor whatsoever. In fact, when he does make jokes, he isn't even aware that people are perceiving him as joking. But they paid for Kevin Hart, so we need to have him wisecracking throughout the whole thing. I have heard of people saying that certain movie stars look embarrassed in the movie, but if there were an entry for that in the dictionary, it would have Kevin Hart right next to it. You know, if there was a specific word for embarrassed movie star. For real, the entire fandom knows it was supposed to be Terry Crews. How could it not be Terry Crews? But fear not, dear viewer, because the hero of the epic space saga is none other than the inappropriately overaged Cate Blanchett, who, by the way, is only twice the age of the character that she's playing. Of course, she has such original, brilliant lines such as,
I'm getting too old for this
I'm too old for this crap. You can just tell that when the pants-on-head moronic Hollywood executives came together, for the pre-production meeting, they remember her from her heroic turn as Galadriel, but conveniently forgot that that was 20 years ago. Now, she always does a great job, except for here, of course, but this movie just has extremely ineffective writing, not to mention direction. This is a talented Shakespearean actress who has played Queen Elizabeth in 2 movies, but even she can't save the horrible writing. She does look a little bit less embarrassed than Kevin Hart, though, and that's an accomplishment. And it's like, oh my god, I've seen better casts on Broken Legs. I swear, when I heard that Jamie Lee Curtis and Cate Blanchett were gonna be in a movie together, I thought it was gonna be a Golden Girls reboot. Not this. So we're introduced to Cate Blanchett's character, Lilith, which is probably the laziest way you can imagine for a character to be introduced. Whoever wrote this has never read Save the Cat and doesn't know how to make you care about a character. So Lilith is supposed to be a Josh Randall-style bounty hunter. She arrives at the bar with this haircut that looks like something from Space Channel 5, or maybe Liddy Maskeer from D-Light. No, actually, I know exactly what it looks like. Something out of Lazy Town. I'm going with that. It may have looked great on Lilith in the actual game, but if you put it on someone that is her age, you're just making her look like a leftist teacher convincing your child to transition behind your back. Especially with the aposematic neon red coloring. But it's sci-fi, so I guess we could be open-minded. Okay, if your life is that of a dangerous bounty hunter, which spends day after day on the hunt for escaped criminals, maybe you just don't have time to start a Pinterest board and different hairstyles. But whatever. Lilith is approached by a potential customer who comes out of the shadows in the bar surrounded by henchmen. And her first instinct is not only to kill the henchmen with no provocation, but also the customer as well. I guarantee you in real life this would be terrible for business. However, the movie must continue, so the customer, whose name is Atlas, and apparently a bit of a big deal, hires Lilith under the pretext of rescuing his kidnapped daughter, Tiny Tina, who we saw escaping from the psych ward with Kevin Hart. And for this mission, she'll have to go to a blue planet called Pandora, which, no, is not populated by blue-skinned creatures. It just so happens that by incredible coincidence, Lilith was born in Pandora, even though she doesn't have a whole lot of memories of it. And not long after she arrives, she runs into this piece of work. Meet the obviously CGI robot Claptrap, who is voiced in the most annoying way possible by Jack Black. Now, if you've played Borderlands, you know that Claptrap is actually meant to be annoying. In fact, a lot more annoying than Jack Black is in this movie. This is kind of like Noober in Baldur's Gate, but he lasts quite a lot longer. The difference is, in the game, you're actually supposed to be able to walk away from him.
If I sound pleased about this, it's only because my programmers made this my default tone of voice. I'm actually quite depressed.
But this is a movie, so you can't get away from Claptrap, and he's always around you being annoying, like all the time. You know that you're in trouble when you read up on this movie and you find out that the director, Eli Roth, says that he was inspired to write Claptrap when he witnessed his dog defecating. And this even inspired a scene in the actual film. I don't think I've seen something like this since Twiggy from Buck Rogers. But Twiggy would just occasionally say stupid random things, while Claptrap never shuts up. I like what the Critical Drinker had to say about this. He basically stated that it seemed like Jack Black wasn't even given any written lines. Then he was just put inside a recording room
with no script and no prep time and just yelled, "Be funny!"
Again, Jack Black, he hasn't played these kinds of characters in like 15 years. I know I just mentioned Buck Rogers, but now it just feels like whoever spearheaded this project had his brain frozen for 500 years. And of course, as soon as Claptrap shows up, Lilith shoots at him. For no reason, which she seems to do with everyone when she first meets them. What the hell, Lilith? Wouldn't you just love to meet this person in real life? You know. Especially since she's probably gonna shoot in the face. What a lovely, relatable, girl boss, strong female character. But through the sheer power of coincidence, Claptrap happens to know exactly where Tiny Tina is. So they waste no time in meeting up with her. But there's a twist, you see. Tiny Tina isn't dying to be rescued by her father because she just got rescued from her father. He believes that she's a descendant of the Iridians and that she's literally the girl who's key to everything. And this part is a little bit complicated because we never know if he cloned her to be one. But who cares? They don't, so neither do we. On to the next scene. Apparently the Iridians have a vault under the planet that contains the thing that everyone wants. And once she's used up as a key, then she's going to be destroyed by opening the gate. Luckily, the other keys are easier to obtain because they're actually keys and not just people who identify as keys. So the merry band of misfits goes off in search of the missing keys. while running into random action sequences along the way. They got $120 million, and oh boy, are they gonna waste it. They also come across the before-mentioned Jamie Lee Curtis, which now is in her 60s. And she's showing some heavy cleavage just to say that, after a certain age, you really don't care anymore. And wouldn't you know it, her character Dr. Tennis happens to be Lilith's mom's best friend from years ago.
You don't say!
And then they find out that Lilith, and not Tiny Tina, is the girl that's the key to everything. And the movie just becomes a lot less interesting then. Last week I went through all 4 John Wick movies, and it's easy to see why the first one was a success. Much like Borderlands, the first John Wick movie is a roller coaster of intense action scenes. But the reason why that worked in John Wick was because we cared about him. We care about him because the movie spent time developing his character and fleshing out his motivations. By the time we were hit with the hurricane of action scenes, we sympathized with him. We actually wanted him to win. And that's the principle of good characters and good films. He was given his share of pet the dog moments. Okay, my camera overheated again, and this is going to keep happening. So if you want to help me out with that, I would really appreciate any donations. I'll leave the link in the description if you guys want to help out. Thank you! This kind of character building is why the movie Rocky, for example, spends an entire hour getting you familiarized with its protagonist before even approaching the main plot, which is the fight with Apollo Creed. His best-known pet the dog moment is when he walks the ungrateful girl home.
Yo!
Screw you, creepo!
We get nothing like that here. Lilith is a prop. In fact, I'll go as far as saying she feels like a different character in every scene. Like I said before, Cate Blanchett is an amazing actress, but she can only do so much for this sort of material. She was grossly miscast. Also, I can only imagine what kind of production schedule this thing must have had. She signed up to work on this during the height of COVID and just wanted to get out of the house. Even Jamie Lee Curtis only signed up to make this movie because she was bored out of her mind, and Kevin Hart only did it to buy a new gold-plated Escalade, allegedly. And this brings me back to Tiny Tina. She comes across as one of those minor crazy enemies from BioShock. She's not given any depth. Her relationship with Krieg is never explained. They don't even bother showing why it is that he cares so much about her, that he feels that he has to protect her from everything. All we know is that she likes to blow stuff up. And by the way, this is likely why the popular character Brick is not in the movie. Since his main function was also to blow stuff up, it would have taken away from Tiny Tina. I don't know why Mordecai is not in the movie, but I digress. And even in Ariana's capable hands, I never got the impression that I was watching anything other than a fellow Gen Zer impersonating Harley Quinn. Tiny Tina is supposed to be a heavily psychotic, ultra-hyperactive force of nature, and that simply doesn't come across in Ariana's performance. I read about how she interviewed Ashley Birch, who was the original Tiny Tina actress in the game, for guidance and inspiration, but she found the voice so hard to emulate that she decided to give it her own spin. And she indeed found inspiration in Harley Quinn. To me, it looked like her brain was like, oh my gosh, I'm Harley Quinn and I'm nailing it. I'm the best Harley Quinn ever. Margot Robbie, who even is that girl? I mean, you can even see they added frosted pink tips to her hair, which are not from the game. Side note here, her hair reminded me of Rem's the Death Spirit from Death Note 2. But anyway, it's an okay performance, I'll give her that. Tiny Tina has a bodyguard in the form of Krieg. He is one of the Mad Max-like psychos, a group of humanoids with what appears to be a hive mind. There are many of those on Pandora, but they never actually explain why Krieg is capable of independent thought, or why he feels it's his duty to protect Tiny Tina at all costs. Then again, they did rescue him from a mental hospital, so maybe his independent thinking was a sign of mental illness. Or maybe he didn't have a mental illness, and they thought he was weird, since they are called psychos. You know, it's perfectly fine to try and do some world building and show people in the audience a planet they've never seen on any other franchise. But like everyone else reviewing this film, I'm kind of wondering where the $120 million budget went. I won't mention the CGI because unlike those reviewers, I watched this on my phone, so you can kind of imagine the quality I put up with. However, I did see some high quality trailers online, and never was I convinced that Claptrap was anything other than a cel-shaded animation. The rendering was just not convincing. And oh look, he's pooping bullet. Yeah, no Brick, no Angel, no Mordecai, not even any legendary trait weapons, but at least we got Claptrap. pooping bullets. Sure, Bobby Lee is in the trailer, but he's in the movie for all of 3 seconds, and so his cameo is a red herring that is far more distracting than enjoyable. Same for the body positive Giga Vega cameo. I just never got any sense at all of entertainment. Pandora was even more lifeless than its video game counterpart. There were moments which were clearly designed to be larger than life, but it didn't feel larger than life. Like the strange giant monster that appears out of nowhere, but Roland is like, nah, it'll be fine, and then just drives through its head. Off film. It's a movie that desperately tries to be funny whenever it could be bothered and doesn't answer its own questions. Like what happened to the siren being destroyed if the gate was opened? It's mostly a patchwork quilt of mismatched action scenes without any sort of substance behind them. The characters don't have any sort of development arc, and the one minor character that does changes so fast that it comes out of nowhere, and she's immediately killed and forgotten. And the whole thing just costs so much money. I'm usually very happy if a movie loses money due to being woke, but this isn't even a woke movie. This is just completely incompetent in every possible way. I'm also kind of appalled at the direction of photography in this movie, because in spite of so much going for it, every scene is framed like it was destined for Netflix and not the big screen. When you think about movies that served entertainment well beyond their budgets, such as Battle Beyond the Stars, or even Metal Storm, The Destruction of Jared Sin, which kind of resembles this movie, you see a real passion for creating something visually unique and entertaining and interesting. Here, you just see money flushed down the toilet. Even the Italians in the 80s were coming up with funnier stuff on shoestring budgets. Sometimes it was intentionally funny, sometimes it was unintentionally funny, but it was funny. And people enjoyed watching it. There's no joy for me in watching any of this other than thinking about it in my head how much better they could have done if they had just made a few changes. A Temu version of Guardians of the Galaxy with a Gucci price tag that seems inspired by a screenshot of Borderlands rather than by the game itself. Anyway, that's all I got for you today. Go away now. Whew, you made it to the end. As always, stay awesome, stay positive, I love y'all, and I'll see you in the next video. Ah!